is such a great pleasure to have you all here. I have to say for myself, this has been an amazing time to step in as a business school dean. I think in some ways the economic crisis and ultimately in some ways also the business school crisis that I think actually began in the accounting crisis of 2001 and was continued in the most recent economic crisis, was a wake-up call for business schools to actually think, how are we training our young minds? How are we training young business leaders for the future? Are we following that one-note tune of market efficiency theory and saying that all of this is going to take care of itself, or are we actually training students to be leaders for the future, to think very deeply about the societies that they're embedded in, about the ways in which they actually engage with stakeholders that they think about how they think deeply about issues like ethics and social responsibility. Now, I actually didn't expect 3 years ago that I would be standing here today. This has just been a remarkable moment for me. I was a colleague of Matt Statler's at the New York University Stern School of Business, and actually worked very closely and was somewhat of a mentee of Sally Blount when the most recent, when the Rethinking Undergraduate Business Education project was happening. And I learned a lot from her. For those of you who know her, that's a true learning from the master kind of a dynamic. And that gave me a lot of opportunities to really think about what we should be doing in business education. Now I have to say that at the time I was a bit of a skeptic. I was one of those annoying faculty members who said, we shouldn't even have undergraduate business education. This is not appropriate because kids should be off learning liberal arts. They should be off expanding their minds, and then we can take them in as graduate students. Now one of the key points, of course, that the book made is that, like it or not, this is the largest undergraduate major in America, and it's growing rapidly. And Sally kind of got my mind around the idea, well, if that's true, we better be thinking about how to do it responsibly. We better actually be building curricula that bring together these ideas and really think about how we're training our young minds. But then I landed here. And what a moment to be here. What a moment to be actually thinking about how to recast and reform a business school, and what I truly think of as the moment of the revolution of business school education. And where else would I want to be doing this than 6 blocks from the White House and across the street from the IMF and the World Bank and the IFC. And so it's just been a tremendous sandbox to actually really start to think about these ideas. Now, of course, I joined a school that was thinking about these ideas for a decade or more already, and I follow a tradition of people who have been thinking about these issues much longer than I have. But I've come even further than just thinking, if we're going to be educating this many undergraduate students, we may as well be a part of that process, because now my thinking is even more exciting. What an amazing opportunity to train young, facile minds, 18-year-olds, who come in and think about their goals in the business world, and to take those minds and actually build programs like the Business and its Publics and Business and Society programs at NYU, or what we're doing here with ethics at GW, or what many of you, I'm sure, are doing across the country at your schools, and really actually think deeply about how to go that next step and really actually leverage the power of the university to create tracks of learning. For me, I like to think about, if we want to study business ethics, why aren't our students minoring in philosophy? Why aren't we actually building those kinds of ties? If we want to study international business, why aren't we forcing them to take 4 years of language and double major with the Elliott School of International Affairs? And those are the kinds of things that I think are tremendous opportunities that will put pressure on our students, because I think we're upping the game for them, but I think it's also going to make them more proud and us more proud. Now it gives me great pleasure today to turn the floor over to Judy. All of you know Judy, I'm sure. She's been a leader in this field for more than a decade, and even before that at the Ford Foundation. I don't know if Judy remembers, but I actually met her shortly after she left the Ford Foundation. I went to the Social Science Research Council to build a program called the Program on the Corporation as a Social Institution. And there were people that I was working with at the Ford Foundation who were thinking, I want to meet this woman who has gone off to do a business and society program at the Aspen Institute. And so so that was sort of the beginning of that friendship, and I just look forward to continuing to work with you for many, many more years, Judy. So thank you all for coming, and have a great and successful day. I'm going to pop in and out as I can, but I really wish you the best, and thank you, Judy, for bringing this here.
Before you leave the room, the truth is, I went to seek him out. He's twisted this story completely. But let me thank you, first of all, for the incredible support we've had here at GW. It's been fabulous bringing this meeting over with your team. So thank you very much. So I'm really excited. I am really excited that you are all here. You know, you planned and planned and planned, and then they all got the same memo, and they all showed up together. And we're delighted and look forward to a really exciting 2 days together. I feel like there's great enthusiasm for this question in this moment. A little bit about the Aspen Institute. I run what's called the Business and Society program, which is part of the Aspen Institute. We're somewhat independent, a little bit like being a center at a university. But we are definitely part of an institution that's kind of had this question of liberal learning in a way at its core since it was launched in 1950. It started, the Aspen Institute started, was founded by a guy named Walter Petke, who was then the chairman of American Container Corporation out of Chicago. And he came back from the war to start the ski industry in Aspen. But thought, what a time for a conversation post-war. Can we bring people together from different walks of life and talk about those things that are central to us, what values we share, and how do we rebuild a society that will take a better course than we followed the first half of the 20th century. And in doing so, he landed in the Roaring Fork Valley with a big tent on the lawn. Some of you have maybe seen that historical photo, or you might see it in a second. And then that led to the founding of the Aspen Seminar, started by Mortimer Adler at the University of Chicago and Hutchins, and many of you have direct lineage draw from that experience as well. So we thought we'd start off today with a little clip from the video that was done about the founding of the Aspen Institute, just a couple minutes, to set the tone and to kind of hear about this seminar and what its purpose was.
Of that convocation. The petition was passed around by many of the public and also the participants, urging that this may not be allowed to die with one summer, but that there would be a continuing summer activity of educational cultural sort. Therefore, the Aspen Institute of Humanistic Studies was founded in the fall of 1949. We tried our best at it, and in August, I invited, with Walter's support, Harry Luce and Claire Luce to come to Aspen.
Mortimer Adler.
Right. Well, Harry said to Walter, look, Walter, because they were classmates at Yale, you're doing the wrong thing here at Aspen. These great folk seminars are attracting librarians and teachers. They can do that anywhere else in the United States. You're missing the opportunity to reach the great intellectually unwashed in the United States. The American businessman. How that came to the idea of the executive seminars?
Well, you know, it's been said that the average American businessman is so busy with the urgent he never has time to invest. And therefore he has a little trouble. You know, it's good business.
Just to, you can see the whole thing on the website. So the great unwashed American businessman. Let me contrast this, if I might, with a quick passage from Rethinking Undergraduate Business Education, which is really kind of the foundational text for our days here together. This begins with a quote from Roger Martin, who many of you know is currently the dean of the University of Toronto's Rotman School of Business. The business leaders I have studied share at least one trait, aside from their talent for innovation and long-term business success, Martin writes. They have the predisposition and the capacity to hold two diametrically opposing ideas in their heads. And then, without panicking or settling for one alternative or the other, they're able to produce Gaudrio and Katz's terms, as the authors go on to say, in their terms, they developed a new, more complex and comprehensive mental model. For Martin, the capacity to achieve this kind of synthesis constitutes integrated thinking, which he considers the hallmark of exceptional businesses and the people who run them. He suggests that integrative thinking reveals an opposable mind, able to hold two conflicting ideas in constructive tension, and to use that tension to create a new and superior idea. Just as human beings' opposable thumb makes it possible for them to perform difficult manual tasks. That's a great image of what's possible if we succeed at the tasks that we're all here together. We all hail, I think, from institutions that have elements of both business education and verbal learning. And we're on kind of a journey, many of you are very far along in this journey, to figure out what might be possible if we can bring these important elements of education to bear and help build the kinds of citizens that we know we need to create and sustain healthy societies. At the Business and Society program, we believe that business is the defining institution of our day. And we organize our work around three core ideas. What is the purpose of business? How do you measure its success, and importantly, over what time frame? And how do you make for high quality decisions? What kinds of inputs do you need to make quality decisions that will stand the test of time? And we believe that business is at its core the institution that we most need today to solve the complex problems of our age. So we've been working in business education since 1998. And we believe that all great endeavors begin in conversation. It's popular to talk today about, in fact, somebody said last night, I was just preaching to the choir, and how do we, what are we going to do here? We believe it all begins in conversation, and that we have everybody